What if I told you that every time you say, "I'm exhausted, I can't handle this anymore," or "I'm falling apart," your cells are listening and obeying with biochemical precision? Ancient Egyptian texts speak of Thoth's forbidden grimoire, a collection of vibrational commands that could restructure living tissue through spoken word alone. But here's what they didn't want you to discover. You've been using this same cellular programming your entire life, just in reverse. Your body doesn't distinguish between metaphor and literal instruction. When you declare, "I'm dying inside," your immune system begins shutting down inflammatory responses. When you say, "This is killing me," stress hormones flood your bloodstream as if facing actual mortal threat. Before humanity's vibrational fall, consciousness and matter existed in perfect harmony. The spirit commanded, flesh responded instantly. No delay, no resistance, no disease. That sacred obedience still exists within you. Every cell carries the ancient memory of this divine relationship, waiting for the precise frequency that will awaken them from their confused slumber. The question is, are you ready to speak the language your body has been desperately trying to remember? In the beginning, your cells were perfect servants of consciousness. Picture this: every single cell in your body functioning like an attentive scribe in the hall of the gods, quill poised, waiting for clear intention to reorganize your biology instantly. When you spoke with presence, with genuine spiritual backing behind your words, pain would simply stop. Inflammation would recede, like tide pulling back from shore. The aging process would slow because there was no resistance in your cellular matrix, only pure readiness to serve your highest command. This wasn't metaphor. This was the original operating system of human biology. But somewhere along the way, something went catastrophically wrong. Your cells staged what I call the silent rebellion, a revolt that never screams or announces itself but happens in the shadows of everyday life, through poorly spoken phrases, repeated negative thoughts, and unconscious outbursts during moments of pain or stress. Here's what most people don't realize. Your cells are still listening. They're still that same attentive scribe, but now they're receiving garbled transmissions from a consciousness that's forgotten how to speak clearly. Every time you mutter, "I'm exhausted," while dragging yourself through another day, your cells hear this as a divine command. They respond by systematically cutting off energy production at the mitochondrial level. When you say, "This is killing me," about your job, your relationships, your circumstances, your immune system interprets this as a direct order to begin shutdown protocols. The phrase, "I can't take it anymore," becomes a cellular mandate to reject incoming resources, nutrients, oxygen, even emotional nourishment. Your body doesn't evaluate the context. It doesn't consider that you're just venting frustration. It simply serves with absolute loyalty, following commands perfectly, whether they come from an awakened master who understands the sacred technology of speech, or from a distracted mind that's forgotten words carry creative power. This is where the ancient system broke down. Words became emptied of presence. Phrases started being repeated without spiritual support, just automatic reactions to stress, pain, or overwhelm. The sacred connection between consciousness and cellular response remained intact, but the quality of communication deteriorated into static and confusion. Let me show you how this plays out in your body right now. When anger builds up and you verbalize it without conscious direction, "This makes me sick," or "I'm fed up," your liver receives these as operational instructions. It increases inflammatory compounds, floods your system with stress hormones, and begins the biochemical process of literally making you sick. Your liver isn't rebelling against you. It's trying to fulfill what it perceives as your clearly stated intention. When hopelessness gets verbalized, "What's the point?" or "Nothing ever works out," your nervous system hears this as a command to drain energy reserves and shut down motivation pathways. The intricate network of neurons that generate enthusiasm, curiosity, and forward momentum begins to go offline. Not because your nervous system is broken, but because it's responding with perfect precision to what it interprets as your conscious directive. Your stomach provides another stark example. Every time you say, "I can't stomach this," or "this is hard to swallow," about situations in your life, your digestive system begins rejecting food, nutrients, even the basic process of metabolizing energy from what you consume. Digestive disorders, chronic nausea, food sensitivities, these often aren't random health problems, but cellular responses to unconscious commands. The brutal truth that Thoth encoded in his forbidden grimoire is this: the body doesn't judge or evaluate the wisdom of what you're asking. It simply serves. If you command exhaustion, it creates exhaustion. If you command inflammation, it creates inflammation. If you command cellular breakdown through repeated negative self-talk, it begins the process of systematic breakdown. But here's where this gets even deeper. This programming doesn't just install itself in the physical body. It embeds in what the ancients called the subtle fields, layers of energy and information that surround and interpenetrate your physical form. The cell is just the visible tip of an invisible chain reaction that starts in the etheric field and flows down into matter. When you speak unconsciously, you're not just affecting your current cellular state. You're programming the energetic template that your cells use as their blueprint for regeneration. Every cell in your body replaces itself regularly. Your skin every few weeks, your liver every few months, your bones every few years. But if the energetic template carries the imprint of "I'm falling apart" or "my body is breaking down," each new generation of cells gets built according to that corrupted blueprint. The most dangerous cellular programming techniques, the ones that can literally rewrite your genetic expression in real time, are too confidential for YouTube. I share these exclusively in our free Insights Academy newsletter, where subscribers also receive a limited-time free copy of the Kybalion, the foundational text for understanding how consciousness shapes reality through the power of speech. This is why Thoth wasn't blaming the body in his forbidden teachings. He was warning the soul. The betrayal didn't come from cellular rebellion. It came from forgetfulness, from unconscious word usage, from the dangerous belief that what we say doesn't matter, that words are just sounds we make to express emotions rather than commands that directly interface with the biological systems keeping us alive. Most people live their entire lives completely unaware that every casual complaint, every unconscious expression of frustration, every repeated negative phrase is being received by their cellular matrix as a direct order from headquarters. They wonder why their energy is low, why their body breaks down, why healing seems so difficult, never realizing they've been unconsciously commanding these exact outcomes through the degraded quality of their daily speech. The ancient system of cellular obedience never broke. What broke was our conscious participation in it. We forgot that we are the commanders, that our cells are waiting for clear direction, and that every word we speak either contributes to our biological harmony or programs our own systematic breakdown. But if this programming can be installed unconsciously, it can be reversed consciously. And that's exactly what Thoth's forbidden grimoire was designed to accomplish, not through complex rituals or elaborate ceremonies, but through the precise restoration of conscious speech as a tool for cellular command. Here's the thing that changed everything for me when I was studying these ancient texts. The moment I realized that the breakdown between your consciousness and your body wasn't some cosmic punishment or spiritual failure. It was something far simpler and far more devastating. We forgot how to breathe as divine beings. Think about it. When was the last time you took a breath that felt like it reached every cell in your body? Not just filled your lungs, but actually connected your awareness to your physical form in a way that felt alive. Most of us are walking around in what Thoth called emotional apnea. We're suffocating our own commands before they ever reach the cellular level. I spent years wondering why the ancient decrees seemed to work for some people and not others. Same words, same intention, completely different results. Then I found this passage in the deeper sections of the Grimoire that stopped me cold. Thoth wrote, "No decree can be obeyed without the breath of presence. There is no creative verb without the breath that carries it." This isn't poetry. This is pure vibrational science. See, what happens is we get so caught up in our heads, so disconnected from our bodies, that we're essentially trying to give commands through a broken telephone line. Your consciousness is up here thinking thoughts. Your body is down there running on autopilot. And there's this massive gap in between where all your intentions just disappear. That's where Ankita comes in. And before you think this is just another breathing technique, let me break down what these syllables actually mean. Ankh, you've seen the symbol, right? It doesn't just mean life. It means life in eternal renewal, the continuous cycle of death and rebirth happening in every moment. Nita refers to the divine principle actively manifesting in physical form. When you combine them, you get something extraordinary, the silent command that reactivates the lost connection between your consciousness and your cellular intelligence. This is the first rite of restoration, and here's why it works. Your body has 3 primary command portals that most people have never learned to activate consciously. Think of them as communication hubs that, when properly aligned, create a direct channel between your intention and your biology. The first portal is your heart, but not the romantic, emotional heart we talk about in pop culture. This is the altar where raw emotion transforms into frequency. Most of us feel emotions and immediately try to change them, judge them, or push them away. But the heart portal requires something different. You feel what's alive without trying to fix it. The second portal is your solar plexus, your personal power generator. This is where pure will lives. Will without resistance or doubt. When this center is properly activated, you can move energy through your system like electricity through a circuit. But most people have this area completely locked down from years of suppressing their authentic desires. The third portal is your throat, the throne of the sacred verb, where intention crystallizes into sound and vibration. This isn't about speaking louder or more confidently. This is about accessing the vibrational frequency that your cells recognize as absolute authority. Here's the specific ritual that changed my relationship with my own body completely. First breath. Inhale, slowly, and guide that breath directly to your heart center. Don't try to feel grateful or peaceful or any specific emotion. Just feel what's actually alive in there right now. Anger, sadness, excitement, fear, whatever's present, let it be present without trying to change it. This isn't about healing your emotions. It's about establishing honest communication with your emotional frequency. Second breath. Move that breath down to your solar plexus, that area just below your ribcage. As you breathe into this space, you're awakening your personal will and starting to move energy through your system. You might feel warmth, tingling, or a sense of power building. This is your life force responding to conscious direction. Third breath. Draw that energy up to your throat. But here's the key. Let it pulse there in silence. Don't speak yet. Let the vibration build in that space until you can feel it humming through your entire neck and jaw. Only then, with your whole body reorganized around conscious breath, you speak this phrase, but not with your mouth. You speak it with vibration filling your entire energy field. My body serves me because I am the living word. This isn't a mantra you repeat mindlessly. This is a decree, a moment when your rebellious, disorganized body begins recognizing who's actually in command again. What happens next is remarkable. Your mind stops its constant chatter because it finally has something real to focus on. Energy starts flowing through pathways that have been blocked for years. Your spirit settles into your physical form instead of hovering anxiously above it. And your cells actually celebrate because they're finally hearing the original sound that gave rise to all things. But I need to give you the same warning that Thoth embedded in these texts. This breathing must be done with absolute reverence. Every cycle is a vibrational lever, a reunion between soul and flesh, a reminder that you are not at the mercy of your body. Your body is at the service of your consciousness. I've seen people rush through this technique like it's just another wellness practice, and nothing happens. They're still trying to manipulate their way to results, instead of establishing authentic authority. But when you approach Ankita as the sacred technology it is, when you understand that you're literally rewiring the communication system between your awareness and your biology, everything shifts. Your cells start responding to your conscious direction instead of running on old programming. Your energy becomes coherent instead of scattered. Your presence becomes magnetic instead of depleted. This is what it feels like to inhabit your body as a conscious being instead of being dragged around by unconscious patterns. Thoth's final warning echoes in my mind every time I practice this. If you want the verb to create reality, you must first create the field. And the field is born from breath. The next time you want your body to respond to your conscious intention, whether that's healing, energy, clarity, or strength, remember that no command can reach your cells without the bridge of conscious breath. Ankita isn't preparation for the real work. Ankita is the foundation that makes all other work possible. Even with the breath bridge restored through Ankita, there's something deeper at work in your body, an internal river that doesn't respond to logic or willpower, but to something far more subtle and powerful. This river carries commands that were spoken years, even decades ago, and it remembers everything. The ancient Egyptians called this river Heka, and they understood what modern medicine has forgotten. Your blood isn't just a vital fluid pumping nutrients and oxygen. It's the sacred messenger system between your soul and your flesh, the liquid medium through which every vibration you've ever spoken, felt, or believed gets transmitted directly to your cells. Think about this for a moment. Every single drop of blood in your body contains precise vibrational records, not memories in the way your brain stores information, but energetic commands embedded in the very structure of the fluid itself. When you speak words laden with emotion, when you accept beliefs about yourself, when you repeat family stories about health and limitation, your blood absorbs these vibrations like a recording device that never stops running. But here's what makes this so profound and, frankly, dangerous when you're unconscious of it. Your blood doesn't think. It doesn't analyze whether the commands it's carrying are helpful or harmful. It simply transmits. It carries to every single cell in your body the exact energetic signature contained in the words you've spoken and the beliefs you've accepted, without filter, without correction, without judgment. I've watched this play out in ways that would astound you if you really understood the mechanism. A woman tells me, "My blood is weak, just like my mother's." And within months, her iron levels plummet, despite perfect nutrition. A man repeats the family mantra, "Heart disease runs in our family. We're all doomed to die young." And his cardiovascular system begins manifesting exactly that destiny, not because of genetics, but because his blood has been carrying that command to every cardiac cell for 20 years. The blood serves as the greatest servant of your vibrational field. It's absolutely loyal to whatever frequency you're broadcasting. When someone says, "This disease is hereditary," they're not making a medical observation. They're giving their blood a direct order. And the blood, in its perfect loyalty, begins creating the biochemical pathways to manifest that reality. This isn't punishment. This isn't the universe working against you. This is your blood doing exactly what it was designed to do. Serve as the communication highway between your consciousness and your physical form. The problem arises when your soul is asleep, when your consciousness has been contaminated by beliefs that don't actually belong to you, when you're operating from borrowed beliefs, stories your family told you, limitations, society, programmed into you, fears that were handed down through generations. Your blood begins carrying out orders that aren't aligned with your true nature. It starts manifesting the physical reality of ideas that were never yours to begin with. I've seen this pattern so many times it's become predictable. Anemia often develops as a direct response to deep feelings of insufficiency, to years of telling yourself you're not enough. The blood literally becomes insufficient because that's the command it's been carrying. High blood pressure frequently reflects decades of unexpressed tension, of swallowing anger and frustration instead of speaking truth. The blood pressure rises because the blood is carrying the energetic signature of that internal pressure. Chronic inflammation is particularly telling. It's often the blood carrying the weight of silenced anger, of resentment that was never allowed expression. The body becomes inflamed because the blood has been circulating inflammatory emotions for years, sometimes decades. The blood's absolute loyalty becomes self-sabotage when you're unconscious of what you're asking it to carry. But here's where Thoth's understanding becomes revolutionary. In his Grimoire, there's a specific vibrational key for releasing the blood from old commands. It's called So-Kai, 2 syllables that, when spoken with full presence, can dissolve the magnetism of unconscious programming. This isn't a casual recitation. So-Kai must be spoken during that moment of silence following conscious breathing, when your heart is open and your field is aligned through Ankita. In that state of coherence, these sounds carry the authority to command your blood to stop repeating past orders. You're not erasing what you've lived or pretending trauma never happened. You're dissolving the energetic grip of unconscious commands. You're telling your blood that it no longer needs to carry out instructions that don't serve your highest good. When you speak So-Kai with genuine presence, something remarkable begins happening in your circulatory system. The river that has been carrying muddy water, the accumulated vibrations of limitation, fear, and inherited beliefs, begins flowing with crystalline clarity. Your cells, many of which have been receiving contradictory or harmful signals for years, suddenly start receiving life-supporting commands. This is when cellular regeneration becomes possible, not through some mystical miracle, but because your body is finally receiving instructions that actually support life instead of undermining it. I've witnessed people's blood work change within weeks of beginning this practice, not because they changed their diet or started taking supplements, but because the very medium through which their cells receive information was transformed. When the blood carries commands aligned with life, health, and vitality, instead of limitation and inherited fear, the entire system responds. The transformation happens at the most fundamental level, in that sacred river flowing through every inch of your body, carrying new messages to cells that have been waiting, sometimes for decades, to receive different instructions. Your blood remembers everything, but So-Kai gives it permission to forget what no longer serves, and remember only what supports the life you're choosing to create. There's something far more dangerous than contaminated blood flowing through your veins. It's what lives in the spaces between your heartbeats, in the silence between your thoughts, in the places where you've buried what you couldn't bear to feel. This is where the most lethal poison accumulates, not in your bloodstream, but in the energetic cavities where repressed emotions sit like radioactive waste, continuously broadcasting commands you never consciously gave. Your blood circulates, cleanses itself, renews every 120 days. But emotions, you refuse to acknowledge. They don't move, they don't cycle. They accumulate in specific regions of your biofield, like stagnant pools, creating what Thoth called command zones of the unspoken. Even when you think you're at peace, even when you've convinced yourself you're fine, these buried feelings continue transmitting their frequency into every cell. Here's what most people don't understand about emotional suppression. Your body doesn't distinguish between what you consciously command and what you unconsciously broadcast. When you shove anger down because it's inappropriate, when you swallow grief because you need to stay strong, When you deny fear because you want to appear confident, your cellular field registers these suppressed emotions as active, ongoing instructions. Thoth's texts contain a warning that translates roughly to, "What you feel and do not express becomes an invisible decree." Your energy field doesn't care about your social conditioning or your desire to be positive. It responds to the actual vibrational signature of what's alive inside you, especially what you're trying to hide. I've mapped the specific patterns over years of research, and the correlations are undeniable. Repressed anger, the kind you smile through, the kind you tell yourself isn't there, lodges primarily in the liver and stomach region. It starts as a tight, sharp sensation, almost like swallowing glass. Over months and years, this energetic tension literally becomes physical acid. The liver, trying to process emotional toxicity it was never designed to handle, begins producing excess bile. The stomach lining, constantly bathed in the chemistry of unexpressed rage, develops inflammation, then ulcers, then worse. I've watched this progression in dozens of people. The successful executive who never allows himself to feel angry about his father's abandonment, chronic acid reflux by age 40, the mother who swallows her fury about her marriage to keep the peace, gallbladder surgery at 50. 2. The pattern is so consistent it's almost mathematical. Denied sadness follows a different pathway but with equal precision. It settles in the chest, specifically affecting lung capacity and heart rhythm. When you refuse to grieve, whether it's a loss, a disappointment, or simply the gap between who you are and who you thought you'd become, your breathing literally becomes shallower. Your lungs, responding to the energetic command, "Don't feel this," begin restricting oxygen intake. It's as if your body is slowly suffocating the part of you that wants to cry. The ancient texts describe this phenomenon as the soul losing its breath. I've seen people who haven't properly grieved in decades walking around with chronically tight chests, always feeling like they can't get enough air, developing asthma or mysterious respiratory issues that no medical test can fully explain. Fear, the kind you won't acknowledge, the terror you've learned to call stress or being busy, creates perhaps the most devastating pattern of all. It targets your heart and adrenal glands simultaneously, creating a slow but relentless drain on your vital energy. Unacknowledged fear doesn't announce itself with panic attacks. It's subtler and more dangerous. It shows up as chronic fatigue, as a heart that beats just slightly too fast, as adrenals that pump out cortisol even when you're supposedly relaxed. Here's the crucial point. It doesn't matter if you call yourself optimistic. It doesn't matter if you practice gratitude or maintain a positive attitude. Your body listens to real vibration, not to the story you tell yourself. It responds not to what you say when others are listening, but to the emotions you hold when you're alone in the dark, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. The good news is that Thoth's Grimoire contains the precise transmutation ritual for this poison, but it requires something most people resist: absolute honesty about what's actually alive inside you. This isn't therapy. This isn't processing. This is energetic command revision at the cellular level. The ritual has 3 steps, and they must be done without rushing and without lying to yourself. First, accurate naming, not "I feel bad," or "I'm stressed," or "I'm fine." You must identify the specific emotion with precision. I feel anger. I feel grief. I feel terror. Naming opens the first energetic door and removes power from the shadows. The emotion can only maintain its invisible command status when it remains unnamed and unacknowledged. Second, direct breathing into the affected organ. 3 slow, intentional breaths, bringing your attention and your life force directly to where your body has been storing this pain. If it's anger, breathe into your liver and stomach. If it's sadness, breathe into your chest and lungs. If it's fear, breathe into your heart and the space just above your kidneys. You're essentially telling your body, I see you. I will not ignore this anymore. Third, the command phrase, spoken with vibrational authority, without doubt or hesitation. Command revoked, release authorized, create only peace. This isn't a suggestion or a request. This is a new, energetic contract. Your field listens. Your organs respond. Your cells begin reorganizing because, for the first time, your conscious command aligns with emotional truth. This ritual requires no external elements, no candles, no altar, no incense. It works at the point where everything begins, in the space between what you feel and what you vibrate into existence. But here's what I need to warn you about. Even after you've successfully revoked these old emotional commands, there's still the challenge of ensuring your new commands are actually recognized by your body as command language. Because your cells don't respond to pretty phrases or wishful thinking. They respond to exact forms, specific vibrational patterns that activate total cellular obedience. The question becomes, do you know how to speak in the language your body recognizes as absolute authority? After clearing the blood river and releasing those buried emotions, you might think the sacred word would finally flow through you with power. But there's something Thoth understood that most never discover. Words without structure are like lightning trying to strike through empty air. They scatter, they dissipate, they create chaos instead of creation. Here's what happens when you speak with authority, but your internal architecture is broken. Your body literally doesn't know how to receive the command. It's like shouting orders into a building where all the rooms have been rearranged, where the electrical systems are crossed, where the very foundation has shifted. The word arrives, but there's nowhere for it to land, no coherent structure to amplify it. Instead of obedience, you get confusion. Instead of healing, you get energetic collapse. This is why so many people try affirmations, mantras, even prayer, and feel like they're talking to a wall. They are. The wall of their own scrambled internal geometry. At the very center of the forbidden grimoire sits a diagram that most would dismiss as decorative. It's not. It's a precise map of your light body, the living geometric framework that your physical form was built upon. Every organ, every system in your body was shaped according to sacred mathematical forms that aren't symbolic representations, but actual structural blueprints. When these forms are intact, your cells exist in harmony. When they're distorted, everything falls apart. Your heart beats within a golden spiral, that perfect mathematical curve found in nautilus shells and galaxy arms. This isn't poetic metaphor. It's the literal geometric template that ensures your heart's rhythm matches the expansion and contraction of emotional energy itself. When this spiral is clear and unbroken, your heart doesn't just pump blood efficiently, it synchronizes your entire emotional field with the rhythm of life itself. Your lungs vibrate within an octagon, eight-sided sacred geometry that represents the balance between inner and outer worlds. Each breath you take should trace this pattern, drawing in not just oxygen but the precise energetic exchange between what you take from the world and what you give back. When the octagon is intact, breathing becomes a form of prayer, a constant communion with the living universe around you. Your liver operates on a hexagon, the same six-sided pattern that bees use to create their honeycombs. This geometry organizes the incredible alchemy your liver performs, not just filtering toxins from your blood, but transmuting material substances into subtle energies your spirit can use. A clear hepatic hexagon means your body becomes a laboratory where dense matter transforms into light. Your kidneys flow in sine waves, those perfect undulating curves that govern all rhythmic motion in the universe. They don't just filter waste, they regulate the emotional and energetic cleansing that keeps your entire system flowing. When the kidney sine waves are smooth and unobstructed, you can actually feel old emotions and stuck energies releasing through natural cycles instead of building up as poison. But here's what happens to most people. Living outside their purpose scrambles these forms. Unconscious repetition, doing the same meaningless tasks day after day, causes the geometry to blur and lose definition. Constant fear makes the patterns contract and distort. Disconnection from feeling, that numbing we talked about earlier, causes the sacred forms to fragment entirely. When your internal geometry is broken, harmony becomes noise. Your heartbeat becomes irregular because the golden spiral is kinked and twisted. Your breathing becomes shallow because the lung octagon has collapsed into something shapeless. Your metabolism becomes chaotic because the liver hexagon looks more like a broken web. Your emotional processing shuts down because the kidney sine waves have flattened into straight lines. Most seriously, the sacred word loses all power because it no longer finds coherent structure to support it. It's like trying to play a symphony on broken instruments. The music is beautiful, but all that comes out is discord. This is where Sikh mat comes in. Not the casual stretching or meditation most people think of, but the specific ritual for rebuilding your geometric foundation. This isn't just movement or sound, but the precise union of gesture, voice, and intention, executed in exact sequence to realign your body with its original mathematical blueprint. Each gesture functions like a divine compass, tracing the sacred forms directly in your energy field. When you turn your arms in the specific pattern for lung restoration, you're literally redrawing the octagon that should surround your respiratory system. When you place your hands over your liver while vibrating the correct tones, you're reactivating the hexagonal matrix that organizes cellular alchemy. When you move your torso in the golden spiral pattern while focusing on your heart, you're rebuilding the geometric template that governs emotional harmony. The sounds aren't random either. Each tone is a precise vibrational code that resonates at the exact frequency of healthy geometric forms. Your heart spiral has its own frequency signature. Your liver hexagon vibrates at a completely different rate. When you emit these sounds while tracing the corresponding gestures, you're essentially tuning your organs back to their original design specifications. But here's what's crucial. This must be done in reverence, not as technique. You're not manipulating energy or forcing change. You're reopening an inner temple that was always there, remembering a sacred architecture that never actually left, just got buried under layers of distortion and forgetting. When you approach Sikh mat this way, something extraordinary happens. Your body recognizes what you're doing. It remembers. Those geometric forms want to reform correctly. They've been waiting for you to provide the right conditions. As the patterns clarify and strengthen, your organs begin responding with a lightness you may not have felt in years. They're finally living in their nourishing environment again. Pain starts receding without apparent medical reason. Energy begins flowing through pathways that felt blocked for decades. Your heart rhythm becomes more coherent. Your breathing deepens naturally. Your digestion improves as your liver remembers how to perform its alchemical functions properly. Old emotional patterns release through your kidneys instead of poisoning your system. Most importantly, your body becomes capable of obeying the sacred word again. When you speak with authority over coherent internal architecture, the command doesn't scatter, it amplifies through every geometric form, every sacred pattern, creating resonance instead of chaos. But even with your structure restored, even with the sacred forms reactivated, and your light body geometry functioning as it should, something is still missing. Geometry is the foundation. Command is the tool. But no temple stands without an altar, and this altar pulses silently in the center of your chest, where all true creation must begin. The ancient texts are clear about this next piece, and it's the one that changes everything. Here's the thing that will change everything you think you know about why your words have no power over your body. There's a sacred altar inside you that's been going dark, and until you restore it, every healing command you speak is like shouting into an empty cathedral. The ancient Egyptian scribes had a term for this, mi'ab, which translates to the place where soul touches flesh. They understood something we've completely forgotten, that your heart isn't just pumping blood, it's the living altar where the invisible world meets your physical form. When Thoth taught about the creative word, he always began with this foundational truth: no sacred utterance can take root in matter unless it's spoken from a consecrated center. Think about the last time you tried to command your body to heal, to change, to respond. You probably spoke from your head, didn't you? Maybe you even felt frustrated when nothing happened. That's because your body has an ancient intelligence that recognizes false authority. It knows the difference between mental effort and true decree. Your cells are waiting to hear from the real you, not from the anxious mind that's been running the show. This is why so many people can recite affirmations for years with zero biological response. They're broadcasting from the wrong frequency. The MEAB, your heart center, generates an electromagnetic field that's measurably stronger than your brain's field. When this center is coherent, aligned with truth, it creates a harmonious frequency that your entire system recognizes as authentic command. But when you're living disconnected from your own truth, when you're carrying unprocessed emotions from Section 5 or operating with a fragmented light body structure from Section 6, this sacred altar becomes corrupted. Not corrupted physically, corrupted vibrationally. The heart's electromagnetic field becomes chaotic, incoherent. Instead of generating that pure harmony frequency that your cells are designed to respond to, it starts producing what can only be described as spiritual static. This noise is subtle, but it's powerful enough to throw your entire biological system out of alignment. Your body literally can't hear you clearly anymore. I learned this the hard way during my own healing journey. I spent months trying to command chronic pain away, speaking with what I thought was authority, getting increasingly frustrated when my body seemed to ignore me completely. It wasn't until I discovered this ancient knowledge about the MEAB that I understood what was happening. I was trying to give orders from a disconnected headquarters. My heart center had gone offline. Here's what Thoth understood that we've forgotten. The moment you speak a creative word from a restored altar, the universe has no choice but to respond. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you're finally operating from the center where soul touches flesh. You're speaking from the place where the invisible blueprints of reality interface with your physical form. But first, you must restore the altar. There's a simple but absolutely non-negotiable ritual for this alignment between heart and word. I call it the Temple Restoration Protocol, and it has 3 precise steps. First, the presence gesture. Place both hands on your chest center, not symbolically, but as an actual calling of consciousness back into your body. Most of us are living about 3 feet outside ourselves, managing life from a disconnected mental command center. This gesture is your signal to your own soul that you're ready to come home to yourself. Second, the triangular breath. This isn't just deep breathing. It's a sacred circuit that awakens the MEAB. Deep inhale that rises from the base of your spine up to your heart center. Brief pause at the chest, feeling that sacred space. Then soft exhale that descends into your belly. 3 points, 3 focuses, 1 complete circuit. You're literally breathing life back into your internal altar. Third, the consecration decree. But here's what's critical. You use only this phrase: I consecrate my heart as a temple. Only truth lives here. When spoken with full intention from this aligned state, something remarkable happens. The MEAB reignites. Your body, like a finely restored temple, becomes ready to hear the creative word. This is the moment of preparation before releasing the word itself. And understand this clearly: once you speak from a restored altar, there's no turning back. Thoth taught that the moment of the creative word is a point of no return, when the universe bows to the sound of presence. Tone doesn't matter. Volume doesn't matter. Source is everything. You need to understand the 3 types of speech that humans use, because only one has the power to alter your biology. First is complaining, speech based on victim consciousness. This comes from wounds and generates more of what you're complaining about. Second is influencing, speech based on ego, trying to manipulate outcomes through mental effort. This might work on other people sometimes, but your body sees right through it. Third is decreeing, speech based on inner truth, arising from the restored me-ab. This doesn't emit opinion or wishful thinking. It emits vibrational command. Your cells recognize this as the voice of their creator, you, finally speaking from your authentic center. But 3 conditions must be met for this to work: sacred breath, coherent heart, total presence. When these align, a single phrase spoken once can alter cellular programming. Not because you're forcing change, but because you're finally speaking from the place where change originates. The specific words will arise naturally as inner revelation when your field is ready. You don't need to memorize scripts or formulas. The restored me-ab knows exactly what needs to be spoken. Your job is simply to create the conditions for authentic decree. Here's the warning that could save you years of frustration. No creative word works if your soul is disconnected from your body. You must first reincarnate, not meaning death and rebirth, but returning fully into yourself. Most people are spiritually homeless, trying to manage their lives from outside their own skin. The restoration of your living altar isn't optional preparation. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. Without this, you're just another person speaking empty words into the void, wondering why your body won't listen to commands from a disconnected source. Your me-ab is waiting. Your cells are waiting. The question is, are you ready to come home to yourself and speak from the place where soul touches flesh? Listen carefully, because what I'm about to share will completely transform how you approach the most fundamental act of your existence. Every single night, you participate in the most sacred ceremony known to ancient mystery schools. Yet, you've been taught to treat it like switching off a machine. Sleep isn't rest. It's reincarnation happening in real time. The modern world has sold you the biggest lie about sleep, that it's simply your body shutting down, your brain filing away memories, your muscles recovering from the day. But Thoth's tablets reveal something far more profound. Sleep is the nightly death and rebirth that allows your cellular structure to be completely dismantled and reassembled according to the commands you've planted during waking consciousness. Think about this for a moment. Your body replaces billions of cells while you sleep. Your brain literally shrinks to allow cerebrospinal fluid to wash away toxins. Your entire energetic field reorganizes itself. This isn't maintenance. This is reconstruction. But here's what they never tell you. This reconstruction follows the blueprint of your dominant thoughts, beliefs, and internal commands from the previous day. Most people fall asleep unconsciously, carrying the day's stress, fears, and limiting beliefs directly into this sacred rebuilding process. They're essentially commanding their cells to recreate the same patterns of dysfunction, the same energetic blockages, the same physical limitations. Night after night, they're reincarnating into slightly older versions of the same trapped self. But initiates understood something different. They knew that the moment between waking and sleeping, that threshold space where consciousness begins to dissolve, is the most powerful portal for transformation available to human beings. In that space, the ego's defenses are down, the rational mind's resistance fades, and the body's energetic structure becomes completely malleable. This is why ancient temples had specific sleeping chambers. This is why mystery schools taught elaborate bedtime rituals. They weren't being superstitious. They were accessing the most potent technology for human transformation ever discovered. When you fall asleep like an initiate, you're not just ending your day. You're performing what the tablets call nocturnal reincarnation, a conscious death of your daily character, masks, roles, beliefs, and fears. You're surrendering to the darkness not as unconsciousness, but as a vibrational womb where your soul can correct, adjust, and reprogram the commands that will govern tomorrow's cellular reconstruction. Remember what we discovered about the living altar at your chest center. This becomes crucial during sleep preparation. As you lie down, you're not just positioning your body, you're preparing the sacred space where soul touches flesh for its most important work. The ritual begins with conscious dissolution. With your eyes closed and your awareness fully present, you visualize your physical body dissolving cell by cell, like stardust returning to its original light field. This isn't imagination. This is preparation. You're telling your energetic structure that you're ready to release today's patterns, today's limitations, today's accumulated density. Feel each part of your body becoming lighter, less solid, more luminous. Start with your feet, then your legs, moving upward through your torso, arms, and finally, your head. You're not visualizing death, you're visualizing reset. You're preparing your cellular matrix to receive new instructions. As this dissolution deepens, you reach the most sacred moment of your daily spiritual practice. In that space between visible and invisible, between falling asleep and completely dissolving, your soul takes command. The rational mind that normally filters and doubts has stepped aside. The body's resistance patterns have relaxed. Everything is suspended in perfect receptivity. This is when the whisper comes, not spoken to the world, but breathed directly into your own energy field. Corpusum secundum exemplar perfium. Let my body be reborn according to the original pattern. These aren't just words. This is a vibrational password that bypasses the intellect entirely and speaks directly to the field that governs cellular reconstruction. Your cells don't need explanations. They need clear commands. And unlike your ego, your body doesn't argue with divine instruction when it's delivered with proper authority. Feel how different this phrase resonates compared to ordinary speech. It carries weight, density, creative power. It reaches into the quantum field, where matter organizes itself according to conscious intention. When you speak these words from the dissolved state, from the living altar of your prepared heart, they don't just echo, they decree. But here's what makes this practice so powerful. You're not asking for healing or improvement. You're commanding a return to your original blueprint, the perfect pattern that existed before conditioning, before trauma, before limitation took hold. You're invoking the template that your soul chose before incarnation, the design that reflects your highest potential. In that absolute silence that follows the command, something extraordinary happens. Time stops. Your flesh stops resisting. The geometries of your light body realign. Your soul fully returns to inhabit every cell. And the word begins taking form, not as ordinary speech, but as primordial sound that organizes light itself. This is the moment when everything you've learned about sacred geometry, about the living altar, about speaking with true authority, converges into pure creative power. Your coherent internal structure provides the architecture. Your prepared heart provides the altar. Your dissolved defenses provide the receptivity. And your soul provides the command. Most people miss this moment entirely because they fall asleep unconsciously. But when you approach sleep as ceremony, when you prepare for it like the sacred ritual it truly is, you gain access to the most profound transformation technology available to human consciousness. Tonight, before you sleep, try this practice. Feel the dissolution. Speak the command. Rest in the silence that follows. And notice how different you feel when you wake. Not just rested, but somehow renewed at a cellular level, as if you've been rebuilt according to a higher design. Because that's exactly what happened. You didn't just sleep, you reincarnated. There, at the end of the forbidden grimoire, almost hidden in the shadows of everything that came before, lies a fragment so small you might miss it entirely. The parchment here is different, touched with gold, but not the ostentatious gold of earthly treasures. This gold seems to breathe, pulsing with a frequency that only becomes visible when your vibrational field has been prepared through every preceding activation. Thoth's writing changes here too. Gone is the elaborate instruction, the careful building of understanding. His words become sparse, almost whispered. He writes not as a teacher delivering grand revelation, but as an elder passing a key, one that will only turn if every other door has already been opened. There's a weight to this simplicity that makes your chest tighten, because somewhere in your cellular memory, you recognize what's coming. The profound truth hidden in this golden fragment shatters everything we think we know about commanding the body. The word that awakens flesh doesn't need repetition. It doesn't need mantras chanted 1,000 times or affirmations spoken until they lose all meaning. What it needs is remembrance, not the remembrance of mind trying to recall forgotten information, but the remembrance of essence, recognizing its own vibration. This is why the Grimoire builds so methodically through each activation. Your soul must remember the frequency before your thoughts can grasp the concept. When you speak from this place of cellular recognition, the body doesn't hear words, it feels home. It remembers the original conversation between spirit and matter, the first moment when consciousness looked upon form and said, "You are mine, and I am yours." Only those who've walked through every threshold can speak this phrase with truth. Everything must be ready. Your breath, consecrated through the sacred rhythm that connects heaven and earth. Your emotions, released from the prison of reactive patterns that kept you trapped in endless loops of unconscious response. The geometry of your being, restored to its original blueprint where every cell remembers its place in the divine architecture. Your blood, purified of the frequencies that whispered limitation and decay. Your heart, reconsecrated as the living altar where soul touches flesh in eternal communion, and your soul reincarnated not in some future lifetime, but right here, right now, fully embodied in the temple it was always meant to inhabit. This is the supreme preparation, the moment when every activation you've undergone creates a unified field of readiness that pulses through your entire being. The moment arrives with startling simplicity. Eyes closed or open, it doesn't matter now. Your vibrational field, stabilized, coherent, singing in frequencies your ancestors knew by heart. From this place of absolute sovereignty, the ultimate command emerges not as words you speak, but as truth you remember. I am the word that reactivates the form. I command the flesh to obey my light. The response is instantaneous and unmistakable. There's no more resistance, no internal noise arguing with your intention, no cellular hesitation, no part of your being questioning whether this is real or possible. The source has spoken, and every atom of your body recognizes the voice it's been waiting lifetimes to hear again. What happens next defies everything modern medicine teaches about the limitations of flesh. Regeneration begins immediately, not the slow, uncertain healing you've grown accustomed to, but the rapid restoration that flows when matter remembers its malleable nature. Your blood lightens, carrying frequencies of vitality instead of the heavy vibrations of accumulated stress and toxicity. Your heart slows into a rhythm of deep power, no longer racing against imagined threats, but pulsing in harmony with the cosmic heartbeat. Energy reorganizes throughout your system, like iron filings aligning to a magnet. Pain dissolves, not suppressed or managed, but actually disappearing, as cellular memory releases patterns of dysfunction that never belonged there in the first place. Your body responds with the eager obedience of a faithful servant, finally hearing clear direction from a beloved master. Matter itself becomes fluid, bending to the will of awakened consciousness. The realization hits like lightning. This was never metaphor. This wasn't some beautiful spiritual poetry meant to inspire, but not actually transform. This is real code, sacred vibrational technology that works with the precision of any natural law. You weren't just reading a forbidden grimoire or understanding ancient wisdom. You were remembering sovereignty over your own flesh, reclaiming dominion that was never actually lost, only forgotten. Your whole body is listening now. Every cell, every organ, every system that seemed to operate independently, according to its own mysterious agenda, all of it waiting in perfect attention for the next command. They were always conscious, these sparks of divine fire animating your human temple. They were always ready to respond, held in reverence for the breath that would activate their highest potential. And now that breath has finally come, the cells weren't rebellious or broken or aging according to some inevitable biological clock. They were simply waiting for the voice of their true owner, the consciousness that gives them meaning and direction. In this moment of supreme recognition, you understand that your body was never your enemy, never working against your highest good. It was always your most faithful ally, maintaining life and function even when you forgot how to speak its language. This knowledge represents something far more profound than personal healing or individual transformation. This is humanity's return to its original state, before the great vibrational fall, when we forgot the conversation between spirit and matter. Before the confusion arose between what we felt and what we created, when there was no gap between intention and manifestation, when spirit gave command and body carried it out with immediate, joyful precision. The circle completes itself with perfect symmetry. The forbidden grimoire has revealed its deepest secrets, each activation building toward this moment of ultimate remembrance. The lost connection between consciousness and form has been restored, not through complex rituals or years of practice, but through the simple act of speaking truth from a prepared vessel. The sacred word flows once again from awakened consciousness into willing flesh, and the ancient partnership between soul and body awakens from its long sleep. What was always meant to be, finally is. You've traveled far to reach this moment. What began as curiosity about an ancient grimoire has become something far more profound, a complete reconstruction of your relationship with your own flesh. The knowledge now residing in your consciousness isn't merely information. It's a living transmission that has already begun altering your cellular matrix, whether you've consciously noticed or not. But here's what separates the initiated from the merely informed. Knowledge, without embodied practice, remains a beautiful theory. Your cells have been waiting their entire existence for coherent commands from a conscious operator. They will only respond to authentic implementation, not intellectual appreciation of concepts. The integration protocol begins each morning before your feet touch the floor. This is when your consciousness is closest to the theta state that bridges spirit and matter. Place your hand on your heart and perform 3 cycles of the triangular breath we explored through the Ankita technique. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4. But this isn't mechanical breathing. You're establishing the sacred rhythm that creates the vibrational field for everything that follows. As you breathe, speak silently to your heart. We begin this day in perfect coherence. Feel the electromagnetic field generated by your heart expand beyond your chest cavity. This field, measurable by modern science at distances up to 8 feet from your body, becomes the carrier wave for every cellular command you'll issue throughout the day. The morning consecration sets your foundation, but the real work happens in the space between stimulus and response. Throughout your day, monitor your internal dialogue with the vigilance of a master craftsman. Every unconscious complaint, every casual curse directed at your body, every frustrated "I'm so tired," or "this always happens to me," is a command your cells receive and obey with perfect fidelity. When you catch yourself issuing destructive programs, and you will, because decades of conditioning don't vanish overnight, immediately engage the release protocol. Place your hand over the area you've just programmed negatively and speak directly. I withdraw that command. You are restored to perfect function. Your cells don't argue with your authority. They simply reorganize according to your most recent directive. The weekly practice of Seek-Mat geometric restoration maintains your light body's structural integrity. Choose one day each week, preferably when you won't be interrupted, to perform this ancient recalibration. Lie flat with arms extended, forming the human cross that mirrors the geometric perfection embedded in your cellular architecture. As you hold this position for 21 minutes, Visualize golden light flowing through the acupuncture meridians, restoring the original blueprint that existed before years of unconscious programming created distortions. But perhaps the most crucial practice occurs each night through nocturnal reincarnation. As you prepare for sleep, recognize that you're not simply resting, you're entering a sacred ceremony of cellular renewal. Before closing your eyes, perform the complete release of the day's accumulated programming. Mentally scan your body from crown to toes, identifying any areas holding tension, pain, or energetic density. To each area, speak with gentle authority. You have served perfectly today. Release what no longer serves our highest expression. Watch as your cells literally exhale the day's toxins, emotional, physical, and energetic. This isn't metaphor. Your cells carry the biochemical signatures of every experience, every emotion, every thought you've entertained. The nocturnal release prevents these temporary states from crystallizing into permanent patterns. As you begin implementing these practices, expect resistance. The old programming will fight to maintain control, manifesting as skepticism, forgetfulness, or sudden urgent distractions whenever you attempt to establish new patterns. Recognize this resistance as evidence that your work is effective, not reason to abandon the path. Distinguish authentic cellular response from mental placebo by observing the quality of changes that occur. Real transformation manifests as effortless shifts in energy levels, unexpected relief from chronic conditions, or spontaneous healing that surprises even you. Forced positive thinking creates temporary emotional highs followed by inevitable crashes. Genuine cellular obedience creates steady, sustainable improvements that feel natural rather than manufactured. With this knowledge comes profound responsibility. Once you've restored the connection between consciousness and cellular obedience, every word carries creative power that must be wielded with wisdom and compassion. The sacred word only serves the highest good when spoken from pure intention. Using these principles to manipulate others or bypass necessary life lessons creates karmic entanglements that ultimately diminish your own power. Seek others who understand these principles. Collective, coherent intention amplifies individual results exponentially. When two or more people who've mastered cellular communication practice together, their combined electromagnetic fields create interference patterns that can literally reshape physical reality. This is why ancient mystery schools emphasized group practice alongside individual development. Patience becomes essential as you navigate this transformation. Years of unconscious programming don't reverse overnight, but consistent application creates cumulative momentum. You're not trying to force change. You're removing obstacles to your cell's natural intelligence. Eventually, you reach a tipping point where your body defaults to obedience rather than rebellion, health rather than dysfunction, vitality rather than depletion. Remember that this work extends far beyond personal healing. Each person who restores the sacred connection between spirit and flesh helps anchor that possibility for others. You become a living demonstration that human beings are not victims of genetic destiny or environmental circumstances, but conscious creators, working through biological vessels designed for extraordinary expression. The forbidden grimoire's deepest secret was never hidden in ancient texts or mystical symbols. It was concealed in plain sight within the magnificent intelligence of your own cellular matrix, waiting for the moment when you would remember your true identity as the conscious operator of this biological miracle. Your body has been waiting your entire lifetime for this conversation. The sacred word of command has always been yours to speak. The only question remaining is whether you'll demonstrate your understanding through embodied practice, or allow this knowledge to join the countless other truths you've collected but never implemented. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it." Your acknowledgement isn't just engagement, it's a declaration that you recognize your role as a conscious creator, working through flesh that obeys your every authentic command.